Good morning, everyone. It's Karina. Welcome to In the Life of a Mermaid. So again, it's Sunday today. So here I am. I'm in my car today. Sal's still sleeping, and so is everyone in the house. I don't want to wake anyone up. So I just decided, and so I can have some privacy. I just decided to come in my car, just make it easier on everyone and myself. But yeah, so last night I think was a little intense for me. I didn't really know what was going to come out. I just, had two topics and whatever came out, came out. And I think I'm just like still a little bit emotional just thinking about everything. Because again, not everyone in my life knows the things that I've shared. So I think there's still that little fear of like, fuck, when they hear this, but again, this is why I'm doing this. Not only, so for myself and just so people can know me for me and get just know everything that's been going on or had happened before, but again to help others, and to hopefully let them tap into whatever is inside them and they haven't been able to talk about it, and hopefully that can strengthen our relationships as well. So yeah, so there's still that little like that little voice, but I'm shifting it. I'm saying, hey, you know what? This can be an opportunity, both for myself and for them, to hopefully get closer. They can have a better understanding of me, and I can hopefully have a better understanding of them. So yeah, so I'm kind of moving forward with that. So for today, like I said, I doing it a little early. Just because today's Sunday fun day, so we run errands, things like that, and today's my date night or date day with Sal, so I kind of wanted to just focus the rest of the day on him. So we'll be focusing on that later. And right now I'm doing laundry, things like that, getting things ready before we hit the gym, and fully get this day started and make it a Sunday fun day. But yeah, today was something that had come up for me. I think I wanted to talk about mental illness, not just in general, but I think about my mental illness. Um, like I shared yesterday, I always felt different. I've always felt like I didn't belong. I think I've always felt too much. Just, overwhelming feelings in general, good or bad. And I care too deeply, which again, that's not a bad thing. And I embrace that. That's what makes me me. And again, that's a good quality that I believe I have that's helping me with my clients, to become a therapist and my friends and all of that in general. But, just growing up, like, you not knowing how to handle that, again, led to, the cutting and the suicidal thoughts and just all those bad places and bad things in general. Um, it wasn't, God, I was starting college, so it wasn't until like my early 20s that I got a diagnosis. I was going to school. I started school in 2011 for my bachelor's. I recently have my bachelor's in human services. And I started school in 2011, so maybe it was around 2012. Just with everything, kind of like the anxiety was going, I think, up and stuff. I didn't realize that at the point that it was anxiety. I just, always known myself as a stress case, so it was kind of like, the life of Karina. um, but yeah, I had went to get a tattoo. Well, I don't know at that point what number tattoo it was, but I went to get a tattoo with a friend, and I remember leaving that night, and I was like super dizzy. I was about to faint. Like it was just every emotion physically that you can think of, like I was feeling, but at that moment I just assumed it was because of the tattoo. We had been there for 5 hours or not a little over 5 hours. So I just assumed like, oh, pendeja, like you didn't eat, it's just that, but it was like a shitty feeling. And then, but I'm like, whatever, like I said, I just connected it to the tattoo. Um, we fast forward maybe like, oh, a couple weeks, no, 2 weeks, if anything. And I was in class and I was doing a presentation. At this point, I can't remember what it was, but I was doing a presentation, and the same feelings kind of came back. I could feel like my knees kind of weakening, my stomach was turning. Like I could feel my whole like temperature kind of just drop. And, I kind of like went back, like I was going to fall. And everyone in the class noticed. I was kind of like looking at me. And, a friend ended up bringing me home that night. And, Sal had to go pick up my car from school. And, I remember like like, oh crap, like is this kind of something that happened with the tattoo? Like it's not the tattoo. And at the point I knew I wasn't pregnant, so I mean, of course everyone goes there, and I was like, no. But yeah, so it was kind of like, okay, this is scary. Um, so so I went. I ended up making an appointment with my doctor, and we were kind of talking. They did all the tests. Everything's fine. And then she asked, like, "Do you struggle with like stress?" And I'm like, yeah, like that's my middle name. Like, don't you know that?" So I was like, yeah. So then, she's like, "You had a panic attack," and I'm like, wow, like because at that moment I'm thinking like I always stop panic attacks of like not being able to breathe, which I mean I've had those before, and I'll go into it some other time. But I was like, I always just assume panic attacks. I was, like, which again, I will get those a lot. She's like, no, like, that's your body saying, like, hey, you need to stop, you need to calm down, And I was like, wow. So I explained to her, like, I got a tattoo and then this and that. And I was like, I just assumed it was that. She's like, body was probably in shock as well. She's like, you had another panic attack there. And, she said, what do you want to do? Like, she wanted to put me on medication at that time. I was not open to that at all. So I was like, no, like, what are the other options? I've always kind of considered therapy. So can we go that route? She said, yeah. So she gave me a referral. I met with a psychologist. We did our intake. And again, going there, I was just fully open because at that point I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be in fear or of fainting, of having those panic attacks again. Like it's a horrible feeling, physically and mentally. And I was like, I don't want to keep going through that. So I started my therapy journey at that point. um Met with the psychologist, again, give me everything. And at that point I was diagnosed with major depression disorder, general anxiety disorder, and PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder. I do have trauma in my childhood. Again, I will cover that another day, and I'll go more into that. But, those were the diagnoses that were given to me. And I remember meeting with the therapist maybe about a week or 2 weeks later. It's Kaiser. um, and I remember again just being completely open and, slowly just working my way up, and sharing and things like that. And honestly, that was like the best thing I could have done. Obviously, I mean, I've still struggled from the beginning to now with it. But it was definitely in a better place. I was able to really get coping skills for myself. I had a safe place where I could go and talk freely and let things out and figure things out. So that was kind of my journey with it. Like I said, it wasn't until my early 20s that I figured out what was wrong with me. And I wouldn't say something wrong, but I was able to figure out what was I struggling with. And then I knew, okay, this is what it is. This is what I can do. This is how I can deal with it type thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, so that's kind of how it started. Like I said, since then I've had different therapists just because of insurance changes, things like that. But I've been pretty blessed except for one therapist. Everyone's been really, really great. I've been able to connect with them and, just be myself and learn something different out of each therapist, which has been amazing for my personal journey. And then again, for the journey of my clients, because things that I've learned in my therapy sessions, I've been able to also kind of apply, to my clients or with my clients. So that's been kind of amazing. Thing to do. So again, if you are kind of in the same boat, I say reach out for help. At least try it. And therapy's not for everyone. I know this. But at least give it a shot. It honestly it gives you a safe place, and once you're comfortable with them, it again starts kind of transitioning into your life as well. Because if you can talk to a perfect stranger, you can talk to your loved ones. That's kind of how it started for me. Like, the more comfortable I was with my therapist, then the more comfortable I was with Sal, friends, and things like that. Like, eventually, like, I would get home from therapy and I would tell Sal, oh, like, my therapy session, we talked about this, we did that. And I would just kind of share the whole session, and then eventually with friends, I'm like, oh yeah, this came up with my therapist, we talked about this. So, again, I just definitely at least recommend to try it. If it doesn't work out for you, then it's not for you. It's not for everyone. But if you feel like you like it, but you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling this therapist, change therapists. That's your choice, is your right. This is your treatment. You don't have to stick with the one that you get. You can always shop around, let them know, hey, you know what, we didn't click. May I please have another one? And, that's your right. So, again, if you're in that situation, I definitely suggest you do that as well. If you're not comfortable, keep trying until you find that right one. Like I said, I've just been truly blessed with the first ones I've met with. We just kind of hit it off, except for one. And again, I called her and said, hey, like I'm not comfortable. And she really made like a big deal about it, which made me feel really uncomfortable in the beginning. And I was kind of like, fuck, like, am I breaking up with my therapist? Like, shouldn't be this weird, But I realized, like, it helped, it pushed me to just stand my ground and set my boundaries and say, like, no, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to keep seeing you. Like, I'm switching therapists, So, and then again, I think when she was being super pushy, it just kind of, for me, it was more of a, like, it just made me see, okay, I'm doing the right thing. She's definitely not for me. If she doesn't understand what's going on with me, and is pushing me, then obviously we're not a good jive. So again, please, if you are seeing a therapist, you don't feel comfortable, stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and switch therapists. Okay. If not, give me a call. I'll help you. We can do this together. But yeah, so that's kind of been like, again, how therapy started. And I've been doing therapy on and off for 5 years. Again, just with the insurance and things like that, different circumstances. But right now I'm back on it on a regular, because of Kaiser, like I said, it kind of changes, the scheduling. So, but normally I see my therapist about either 2 times a month, or like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, just depending on his availability. And then again, because of work, I'm pretty kind of limited more to the night sessions, so that limits my times even more. Um, but yeah, so I mean, things are going, I think, great with therapy in general. I love it. Another change with my mental illness, or mental health in general, that changed was about a year ago. I started taking medication. Like I mentioned earlier, that's something that 6 years ago, I wasn't, really a fan of. Like I said, I always was like, nope, nope, like I'm not going that route. I don't want to do that. But I met with the new therapist at that point. Like I said, my insurance had changed. And I was seeing someone else at that point. I was kind of in a darker place in my life, so I needed someone that I could see weekly. So I was able to still do Kaiser, but I was referred out. So I was meeting with another therapist. And the first night we met, she's like, okay, like, what's going on with you? Why do you want therapy? Why are you here? And again, just I was completely open, honest, and just shared. And she shared, she's like, you might hate me for this. I might not see you next session. She's like, but something that I believe in is medication. She's like, I'm in medication myself. She's like, depression, everything that you're struggling with. She's like, it is a chemical imbalance. So she's like, you can do all these things with therapy, but she's like, but at the end of the day, like, if your mind's not on track, everything else is kind of not going to help. And she's like, I wouldn't ask anything of you that I'm not doing myself. And one thing too that hit me, that I'm always telling my clients, like, hey, take your medications, talk to your doctors, do what they tell you. And it's like, but yet here I am on the outside, on my own personal health and mental health journey and stuff like that, not living up to that standard, and telling my clients do this, but yet I'm not doing it myself. So I think that was like a huge wake up call for me of like, how am I going to ask something of them if I can't even do it myself? So, and I realized again, like I've been struggling. Um, so I was like, and I told her that I was like, right now I feel like I'm just surviving. Like I'm just surviving. And I was like, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to just survive. I want to live. So I decided to do a call, called in, whatever, got a psychiatrist, psychiatrist, and started medication. Like I said, it was still kind of scary, and I even expressed that to them. Again, I had like a list of questions, and I was like, what about this? What about that? Like, are they addicting? Because that was my biggest concern. I was like, if I start, like, is it just going to keep going from there? Am I going to be like on higher dosages? Am I going to be on medication for the rest of my life? Like, what does this look like? What does this mean now? And he was very, very helpful. Like I said, he was very present, very understanding, kind of addressed all of my questions. Um, so that was really helpful. Um, and yeah, so I decided to start taking them. Obviously, the first 5 days, usually you have the side effects because your body's kind of getting used to them. So it was a bit difficult those first 5 days, just kind of feeling off. But after like maybe the second week, I could start feeling, and even my therapist noticed it. She's like, I'm super emotional. I'm sure you noticed already. Um, I wasn't crying as much in my sessions. I felt more in control of my emotions. I was more, just in a good place in general. I was, you know, just I felt like I was living. I wasn't like being controlled by my emotions. I was able to just express myself freely and just be in the moment of things. And I also was able to get one for sleeping because I do struggle with that. It's gotten better for the most parts now. Sometimes I can sleep without it. Sometimes, depending on the day, I'll take at least one just to take off the edge, make sure I can knock out quickly. But for the most part, like I said, most days I can go without it and I sleep on my own. I get like at least 6 hours, if not more, depending on what I have planned for the next day. Um, but yeah, so that it's been a year, like I said, right now when I'm all of this with in my life, um, with lit and doing all of this, I'm feeling more energy in general. Like I can't remember if I had shared this or not, but I definitely have feel that my depression has decreased, and same thing with my anxiety. Right now it's just like life stressors, that happens, but again, it hasn't gone up to the way that it has. So my goal right now is just to kind of get stable with everything. But I would eventually love to well, at least have a discussion with my psychiatrist of maybe either going down on the dosage, even though they're not that high, or eventually taking it off. And again, if everything comes back, then again, at that point, I would talk to them again and resume everything. But like I said, right now, and everything in my life, like I feel like I'm in a good place with things. My emotions are under control. So again, not, we'll see kind of how it goes, or what happens, but that's good. That's kind of my journey with medication and stuff like that. Like I said, I was completely against it in the beginning, but then I was open. Another thing that my therapist had said too was, she's like, she was Hispanic as well, or Latina, and she had shared, she's like, in our culture, we see it as being crazy. She's like, está loca, she's like, but your insurance doesn't pay for crazy. She's like, obviously, mental health is real. She's like, because your insurance is covering it. She's like, you know how insurance works, and insurance doesn't pay crazy. And I was like, that's right. So that kind of made it more real for me. And then she said, if you had diabetes, or if you had, something else, like, what will you do? You would take your medication. So why wouldn't you do that for your mental health? And again, that was another huge wake up call for me, that I was like, yeah, like she's right. Like, why, if it was something else, like I have a cold, I take medication. I have this, I take medication. So why am I not, taking this seriously? Why am I not taking medication for mental health? So again, I was like, yeah, like, let your fears aside, address all your questions, and do it. And the crazy thing is that once I started, again, I was being open with like my closest friends, and two friends ended up kind of starting their own journey as well, with this, and addressing with the doctors and starting taking medications and stuff like that. And I was like, yay, but again, not so much because I'm like, I want everyone on medication. But it was more for like, the fact that, hey, this is something that you need. So let's do this, and just to be able to push them and take care of their health was the amazing thing. That's something that was amazing for me, to kind of just see that and be able to help them. Um, but yeah, so again, I've been on medication for about a little over a year at this point. I think I started about last summer. And it's changed my life. Like I said, it didn't fix anything. I'm not saying like your depression, anxiety, or whatever it is that you're struggling with, it's going to go away, but it maintained it, and it made it more manageable for me. It got it into a place where I'm like, okay, I can live my life, and then again, it's still up to me to put that work in, and to do, my therapy, my journaling, whatever it is that, I do to help myself. So again, mental health is real. It's not just about, oh, get over your feelings and push forward. When you're depressed, like, that you're loved, that you have all this support around you. But in those moments, it's so hard to really see it or really understand it. When you're anxious, same thing. It's like, you're pretty much making yourself anxious. You're overthinking things and you're overdoing things, but you can't control it. It's kind of like it just takes over you and overpowers you. So just be aware of that. Again, I kind of like I mentioned yesterday, be kind, um, reach out to others and just be supportive. And, for you, if you're struggling, just talk about it. When you can. Like I said, I know sometimes it's hard to express yourself. Sometimes what I've done, I'll write it down, and I've written letters to people, because I'm like, I can express this, um, but I'll write it down and I'll give them a letter. And then I'm like, and I'll kind of express in the beginning, I'm like, hey, I want to talk about something, but I don't know how. So I'm writing a letter, I'm giving it to you, and then we can talk about it. So that kind of takes like, it just, I'm able to really say what I want to say in writing. And then, when they read it, then we can talk about it. But yeah, so just talk about your emotions, talk about, what's going on with you. And for those of you that are not struggling, again, just being mindful. But yeah, that's kind of my journey, with mental illness in general. Like I said, I struggle with depression, anxiety, and PTSD, which I'll go into, a little bit more, next time. So yeah, so I'm on medication, I'm on therapy, now I'm doing lit. Again, I always kind of journaled, reach out to friends. So yeah, again, just being mindful, be kind to each other, be supportive, and if you're struggling, please reach out, talk about it. You're not alone. You can live a normal life. Well, I hate that word, sorry. You can live a full life, a fulfilling life, with a mental illness, and, or any type of disability, and taking medication. So again, just reach out to people, be kind, and, getting out now. I keep getting calls and messages. Um, so have a great day. Happy Sunday, Sunday fun day. Again, love you guys. If you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, please feel free to reach out. All right. So have a good one. Love you. Bye.